In today's show, I'm going to be telling you why I think holding ADA and XRP long-term isn't a great idea compared to holding this altcoin. I believe that when we consider the factors of opportunity cost, you'll be better off in the long term holding this coin over projects like ADA and XRP. This title isn't clickbait. I genuinely believe this, and I have a thesis that I want to outline for you guys in today's video to explain my thought process behind opportunity cost and behind why I wouldn't be holding ADA and XRP long-term if you're not holding this project. Let's get straight into the show. So I am looking at the top 20 market caps right now. I want to focus on what is the best project in the top 20 that you can hold for the long term, be A, relatively safe in terms of risk reward, and B, still expose yourself to great returns long term. That is the primary focus when we are trying to pick a top 20 project. We know that top 20 projects don't have crazy 100x, 200x potential like some of the smaller caps, but that's not the objective of investing in a top 10 or a top 20 project. The objective is to A, preserve capital, and B, still expose yourself to solid long-term returns. And I believe the project that I'm going to show you in today's show does that. Just quickly, before we get into the reasons I'm going to outline in today's video, remember we do have the trading challenge at the moment where you can win $100,000 on BYBIT, depending on where you rank. All you need is $250, and it's based on a percentage of your account. There's a link in the description to sign up for a Banter BYBIT account, which you will need to take part in the trading challenge. You also can get up to a $4,200 bonus if you sign up. So link in the description, click on the link, get yourself a BYBIT account, and get trading, guys, because this is the biggest giveaway that we've ever done, and it'll be a lot of fun. So the thumbnail here is controversial, but I do have a logic here. I'm not just going out on a whim and saying sell your ADA and XRP for no reason. I really do have a thesis, and I want to outline that for you right now. And this thesis is based on the premise of opportunity cost. Now, the law of opportunity cost states that if there is a better available opportunity on the market, then there's only a finite amount of dollars that you can possibly invest in one project. So you should gear your investments towards the project that at any given moment has better growth potential and better scaled risk reward. Now, opportunity cost means that we want to be gearing our capital towards the assets that we think will be the most productive and perform the best. There's no point in investing in assets if there is a like-for-like comparison that can perform better on the market. For example, if you only have $10,000 and you put all $10,000 in Ethereum, the opportunity cost of holding Ethereum is holding any other altcoin on the market. That's just what the law of opportunity cost states. So if you did invest your $10,000 portfolio in Ethereum, you'd have to verify that that was the best available option at any moment. Now, when I scroll through the top 10 and I look at projects like XRP and Cardano, given their current market caps of around $20 billion, I think there's a much better play on the market right now in terms of risk reward, that where you guys could park your capital and not necessarily expose yourself to the same risks as these projects. But just quickly remember, this video isn't financial advice. This is my personal opinion. This is my thesis, and you have to make your own investment decisions based on your personal situation and your personal thesis. Now, by now, some of you have already guessed it. This project is actually BNB. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to BNB. Some people call it this crazy centralized coin. Some people say that it's going to be a ghost chain one day. Some people just don't really understand the tokenomics. And in today's show, I'm going to outline the 7 reasons why I'm actually bullish on BNB and why I actually think it's a better long-term hold than something like an ADA and an XRP. And at the end, I'm going to answer some questions because I want to have a discussion with you guys as to why I believe this is the case and maybe rebut some of your points in the comments. So these are the 7 reasons why I'm bullish on BNB. And then at the end, I'll get into the reasons why I think it's a better play than something like an ADA or an XRP. The first thing to note is that BNB recently hit an all-time high on the BNB Bitcoin chart. Most altcoins have actually underperformed Bitcoin this year. BNB has been quiet. You don't hear that much about it on social media comparatively to these other altcoins. If you've ever scrolled through your feed, you know the ADA maxis are out in full force. You know the XRP guys are out in full force, but you don't hear that much about BNB. But it actually has been a very impressive achiever compared to other altcoins. If we look at the BNB Bitcoin chart, it recently hit an all-time high last week. Now, this is one of the only altcoins that is continuously printing all-time highs versus Bitcoin, and it's been a solid performer versus the market. So if you had invested in BNB in 2017 and you'd held it over Bitcoin, it's starting to look like a pretty decent play because it continuously prints all-time highs against the Bitcoin chart. And that's one of the reasons why I've been so impressed with it lately, because it continues to show this relative strength. Now, you may say, well, that means it can still drop further than Bitcoin when Bitcoin goes down, right? Well, no, wrong. BNB is actually only down 55% from its all-time high to its current level, compared to a Bitcoin decline of 66%, an ETH decline of 61%, a Solana decline of 84%, and an AVAX decline of 82%. And you guessed it, ADA is also down 82%, and XRP is also down 88%. So if you are holding BNB from all-time highs, you'd only be down 55% compared to ADA at 82% and XRP at 88%. So in terms of its price performance in volatile markets, it's recently proven that it is the much more resilient project out of the top 10. And whenever we look to verify long-term investments, we want to look at the projects that are heavily backed and the projects that are going to be around in 2, 3, 4 years. And BNB is certainly proving that it looks to be one of those, because the market is continuously stepping in with buy pressure whenever things get shaky on the market. It's pretty remarkable to me, actually. Pretty shocking when I found this data, because if it's outperforming Bitcoin on the way down, outperforming Ethereum on the way down, then there's definitely a chance on the way up in the next bull run it does the same thing. Remember, these drops don't act linearly. If something's showing relative strength, it tends to replicate that both to the upward side and the downward side. Now, it is a large market cap coin, so that doesn't mean it'll outperform a top 50 project on the way up, but we are comparing it to its peers here in the top 10, because I know a lot of you hold top 10 projects, myself included, and if we're holding top 10 projects, we need to be in the ones that we think have the best risk-adjusted returns. The next point I want to make is that Binance is now the largest and most established exchange. If we look at the top 10 exchanges on CoinGecko, we can see that Binance clearly comes in at number 1 with a $13.3 billion 24-hour volume. When we look at Coinbase at 1.6 and FTX at 1.5, we can see that Binance is clearly ahead of the pack. Now, one of the reasons why they're ahead of the pack is because CZ has been so strategic, positioning themselves in Asia. A lot of these other exchanges have focused on the US market and have come under real regulatory scrutiny, like Coinbase recently. Binance has been able to avert this slightly by not being a US public listed company and maintaining very strong power in Asia, and also doing a lot of business development in that region, which has helped them solidify their market share in that region. I'm personally from Australia. If you guys are also from Australia, you'll know that Binance is everywhere. It's basically the main exchange here, and that's the exact same thing in a lot of Asian countries. We recently saw South Korea. It banned a lot of exchanges because they didn't have the correct licenses. Binance wasn't one of them. They're very well positioned, and this is one of the reasons why I'm bullish, because exposure to the BNB token is not just the chain. This is where a lot of people get confused. You get exposure to the exchange because of their buyback system, and also the fact that you need BNB tokens to stake to actually reduce your fees. And CZ had a response actually to this tweet last night, which I'll get into, which does a good job at explaining that. It's also very hard to bet on SAM. So when we look at the historical performance of betting on SBF in this market, Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ, betting on either of them has ended up being a very good long-term play. So if you invested in Solana when it came out, you would have done very well. SBF backed that. If you invested in FTX when it first came out, it would have done very well. Sam backed that. If you bet on BNB when that first came out, you would have done very well. CZ backed that. So going forward, we do want to actually back these leaders, because they are the ones that are pioneering the space forward, and they're the ones that have also historically performed well. Now, obviously, past performance is not indicative of future performance, but it is important to note that when we are investing, you can significantly increase your edge by following where the smart money is going. I would personally put CZ and SPF in the smart money bracket, and that makes betting on either of them a pretty good move, in my opinion. Now, you can bet on Sam, of course, but this is the slight issue with betting on Sam. He has FTT, which is the FTX exchange token. He has Solana, which is the L1 that he's heavily invested in. He's now invested in Aptos and Sui, which are built on the Move programming language that they took from Facebook. That'll be launching next year. So now there's like 4 projects that Sam's attention is being divided towards. Now, I still think probably Solana out of this entire list and FTT are probably the 2 best bets at the moment. But still, there are some unknowns around whether Sam will actually gear his attention to the FTT token if there's all these other projects that he has a vested interest in. Like, which one do you actually end up backing? That is a question that's a lot harder to answer than CZ's. For CZ, the equation is so much simpler. Betting on BNB is a direct bet on CZ. He has one project. It's his major token. He gears most of his time and his efforts towards improving Binance, improving BNB. And that's the reason why betting on BNB is easier than betting on a Solana or an FTT if you want to capture exposure to one of these 2 guys. Now, I still do bet on Sam, but I definitely think it's a lot easier to bet on CZ if you're going to bet anyone out of the two. Number 4, and this is probably the most compelling reason out of this entire list of 7, is that you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. BNB doesn't just have one utility. It's not just the BSC chain. A lot of people get this confused. Whenever I see BNB being talked about online, everyone's always talking about, oh, BSC, it's very centralized. Like, oh, it's a smart chain. Like, why would I invest in this over Ethereum? Blah, blah, blah. Because you're not. You're getting exposure to the upside of the exchange as well. This means if BSC fails, it doesn't necessarily matter because BNB could still theoretically perform well due to the exposure you're getting over the exchange. So you're getting exposure over 2 narratives. You're getting A, the exchange narrative, and B, the L1 narrative. Now, some people might make the argument that the narrative dilution is certainly a factor. I mean, if you have too many narratives, it's hard to pinpoint the direct cause of a catalyst because you're spread too thin. I think BNB actually hits the sweet spot here. I think that 2 narratives is perfect. 2 narratives with solid use cases and solid value accrual mechanisms, BNB being the gas token of BSC, BNB also being the exchange token that participates in its staking rewards and its buyback features. It accrues value in 2 ways. And this is very important because if you're investing, you could potentially capture upside to both sides. We saw this with Luna when it was first launched. It was supposed to be this UST product that purely operated on stablecoins. It ended up pivoting into being an L1, and it ended up performing well off exposure to both. How it ended was a fault of the mechanism, but the run-up that it had was due to a shift in the narrative away from the stablecoin and more into the project as an L1 and what it can facilitate in terms of development. BNB has this already. It's already got 2 narratives, and that's why I like it potentially as a hedge against the BSC token failing because it still has that exchange side revenue that it generates. Number 5, equally as important to point number 4, is that CZ is a great leader. He works with regulators and politicians globally. We could see him with the president of France. We could see here he's with the Central African Republic. We could see he's with Fred Genta. He's pushing for Kazakhstan approval with their services authority. He does a lot in Paraguay. He's literally all over the place in South America, in Africa, in Asia, and he's constantly mingling with politicians. He's a multi-billionaire, one of the world's richest people, one of the most connected people. And he puts regulatory framework at the forefront of whatever he does. He's at the forefront of global adoption. He pioneers via both political and institutional efforts. And in an ever-evolving regulatory environment, you have to back leaders that prioritize regulation and compliance. He's massive on compliance, guys. There's a lot of other top 10 projects which have compliance issues. XRP, like in the thumbnail of this video, is one of them. They have a massive ongoing lawsuit versus the SEC. Do I think they'll overcome it? Yes, but it's still a major headwind that we haven't necessarily seen from Binance. We haven't really seen many events that can actually shake this project. As I said here, it rarely has any bad news, yet it has bullish catalysts. And I think the diligent approach that they take to security and regulation is definitely one of the reasons why this has been the case and why, in terms of price performance, it's been so resilient. Now, when we talk about security, it's important to affirm whether it's safe and reliable. Now, Certic, who has a Web3 leaderboard that rates all these projects based on Skynet trust scores, they verified that BNB was actually the number 1 project in crypto for trust score. So if we go onto the website and we click on the homepage here, we can see that it is number 1 in terms of its trust score. It has multiple audits and it's been verified as a top 10 project for security. Now, its security score is 95, its market and community score is 95, its audits are fully checked out. They prioritize security, guys. This is so important in an ever-evolving crypto landscape where we see continuous exploits, continuous issues, even amongst the top 10 projects. Like, if I was going to take a slight knock on Solana, we know it's had a lot of downtime recently. You can also knock some of these other projects in the top 10 that have also had major issues. I mean, Cardano's taking years and years and years to ship a product. Whether that's the right or the wrong approach, we'll see in the near future. But wouldn't you already back the project that's been shipped, is pioneering actively in this market and is also at the forefront of security and regulation? I mean, personally, I'd much rather do that. And number 7 is that it's got BUSD. We know how much FUD USDT and USDC has gotten in recent times. It's continuously popping up. I mean, a couple months ago, USDT was being FUDded for an uneven balance sheet and printing money out of thin air. Then we've had continuous FUD around USDC as well, to do with where they were investing their money and potentially them being exposed to the 3AC and the Luna collapse. There's constant issues when it comes to these other stablecoins. BUSD, it hasn't really faced those issues. It's one-to-one backed. It's issued by Paxos. It's in partnership with Binance, and it has been a very solid performer. And in recent times, we've seen the BUSD start to grow and take up USDC and USDT's market share. Now, this is because a lot of people have seen it become kind of like a safe haven in recent times, because people are realizing, well, maybe it isn't safe to keep all my assets in USDC or USDT. Let me diversify a little bit into BUSD. And this is something I personally do. Let's say I have $10,000 sitting in a cold wallet in stablecoins. I'd want to hold 30% USDT, 30% USDC, 30% BUSD, and maybe 10% is something else that's farming somewhere. But the majority, I want to spread across these safer projects. BUSD, in my opinion, is becoming a blue chip stablecoin, and this is only beneficial for Binance as it's a key pillar in not only the BSC ecosystem, but also on the exchange with many derivatives and spot trading pairs for BUSD against other projects. Now, to answer the question that everyone's asking, some people have said clickbait, some people have said I'm not selling my ADA, etc. This is my thesis as to why I personally am betting on BNB over ADA and XRP, because I think it's one of the best risk-reward plays in crypto. There's actually not many coins I'm comfortable holding over a multi-year time horizon. BNB is probably one that I can count on one hand that I'd be comfortable holding till 2024. Many of these L1s, despite popular belief, they probably won't perform in the next cycle. The L1 narrative has become extremely saturated. There's like 180 L1s right now. The previous run-up that we saw in the previous cycle was on the bet that Ethereum would take years and years to achieve its final goals. We're now seeing if this merge is successful, and with the growth of Ethereum L2s, that the L1 narrative, it's kind of taken a bit of a knock in my opinion. Does this mean that there can't be alternate L1s? No, it won't just be like Apple has the monopoly in smartphones. There's going to be your Samsungs, there's going to be your Huawei's, but we're better off betting on the one that captures the most market share. In this case, it's going to be Apple. And there's not necessarily, and that's obviously Ethereum in this comparison, there's not necessarily room for 50, 60 L1s. So when I see people stuffing their portfolio full of 10 L1s, I think that may be a mistake going into next cycle. And I think that may be based on the logic from the previous cycle, because L1s were the top performers, that, they're going to be the top performers next cycle. No, I actually think there's going to be multiple narratives that cement themselves next cycle that weren't necessarily around in the last cycle, may not even be around right now. So when we hold long-term bets, we have to be pretty damn sure that they're going to be around in a few years. Can I say that about ADA? Probably it's going to be around, but I don't have as much confidence in that as I do as BNB, being the biggest exchange, being also having exposure to the L1 narrative and having such a diverse ecosystem. It's one of the reasons why I think it's one of the best risk-reward plays in crypto, because when we look at the top 10, a $48 billion market cap for crypto's biggest exchange and one of the biggest L1s. I know it's a lot of money. It's obviously a high valuation, but then we compare it to an ADA at 20 bill. We compare it to these other projects, XRP at 20 bill. It starts to make a lot of sense to me, because BNB has significantly less risk, in my opinion, than ADA and Cardano. Significantly less risk. And when I do a risk-reward adjusted analysis, BNB has the higher score. It has the higher score because it has less risk and it has similar upside. And we know it has less risk due to price volatility. We also know it has less narrative-driven systemic risk. So when I do a basic risk-reward analysis, and you can do this on Excel yourself, you'll basically find every single time BNB comes out on top. And that's one of the reasons why I'm more comfortable holding it than ADA and XRP. So if you hold ADA and XRP and you don't hold BNB, I'm not telling you to do anything, because this isn't financial advice. But what I would mention is just have a long, hard think about opportunity cost and actually think to yourself, what is the better risk-reward play here from a long-term perspective? Is it actually ADA? I came to the conclusion that it wasn't. Now, I may be wrong here. I'm not a fortune teller, but all I can do is judge the market based on the current data I have available. And this is what the current data is showing me. And these are 7 of the narrative-driven reasons why I believe this to be the case. Now, will it generate mind-blowing returns? Should you ape in? You might feel very bullish now after hearing 7 bullish reasons. No. I mean, there's no rush. There's absolutely no rush. This is something that I'd be comfortable taking profits into long term. This is something that I'd gradually siphon off profits from other narratives into long term, because it won't generate these crazy returns. It probably won't 20, 30x like some of these other projects. Can it become a top 3 project? Absolutely. Can it hit a $200 billion market cap? In my opinion, absolutely, that's still a 10x, but it's not these mind-blowing, millionaire, life-changing returns that a lot of us want in the market. But it is a project where you can be a lot more comfortable and actually get some decent rest at night, knowing that you hold it, because it'll be a consistent performer, in my opinion, and it possesses much less downside risk than other top 10 tokens. So that was my thread on BNB. There's 7 reasons outlined on my Twitter. I'll also retweet this now, so it's at the top of my feed so you guys can see. CZ also retweeted it and commented, which was pretty cool. But let me know what you guys think. I'll just read through like 2 comments right now, and try and answer any questions. Someone said if I had 100K, then yeah, I need better gains with less money. Exactly. It all comes down to your goals. If you're trying to make millions of dollars off 100K, then yeah, you're probably not going to do it through BNB. If your goal is capital preservation, or you want something that you can steadily DCA into long term and still generate solid returns, then yeah, maybe BNB does make a good fit for your portfolio. It all depends on what your portfolio goals are. Someone said you're wrong. Well, this is totally subjective. This is my personal opinion. I may be wrong, but I've done the research. If you've done the research and you've come to a different conclusion, that's okay. I'm just going off the data sets that I've looked at and the narratives that I've looked at. And you have to go away and do your own research and verify whether you agree with these 7 points or whether you have any counterpoints. You're not going to learn anything in crypto if you just kind of sit back and passively digest information. The best thing to do is actually think. Use your brain and start to counter some of these points. Okay, what are the reasons why it's underperformed? What are the reasons why it's shown relative strength? What are the main risks? List the 5 major risks. And what are the 5 major catalysts? And then weigh them against each other. That's always what I do before I invest in an investment. XRP is the best stablecoin. Hasn't moved in years. Yeah, you can make that argument, but it was down 88.57% from highs. So it's still shown relative volatility against the rest of the market. It's actually one of the worst performers in the top 10 since its highs, obviously due to regulatory risk, which may genuinely subside. But something like a BNB minus 55%, yeah, it's performed a lot better in this market. Please sell ADA. I need more. How much are they paying this guy to promote? Nothing. We don't take paid token shills. We never take money to shill a project. And whenever we have an official sponsor like BYBIT, we always disclose that with the links in the description and in the show banner. I mean, you don't need to necessarily sell ADA. It's totally your choice as to what you do with your portfolio, of course. I'm just personally saying I'm not investing ADA. I'd rather invest in BNB. That's what I'm personally doing. BNB is my 3rd largest holding. I think that's a pretty good position to have it in your portfolio. I think a top 5 weighting makes a lot of sense considering A, its risk reward, and B, its market cap. I hope everyone here has enjoyed this video. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And also, I'm going to go live on Instagram right now, do some live trades, and also answer some questions, because I know this video is quite controversial and I genuinely love having discussions. I'm not the type of guy just to come here and make a blanket statement and then kind of piss off and then kind of just be controversial for the sake of it. No, I genuinely have a thesis and I genuinely believe in my thesis. And if you'd like to discuss that thesis, head over to my Instagram, link in the description, and I'll go live right now and we can actually have a chat and a logical discussion for those that want to have an educational discussion. And we may also look at some trades and look at how I'm positioning myself for the weekend as well in this trading competition. So yeah, I also follow some of you back as well. So going live on Instagram now. Thank you guys so much for the support this week. I will see you next week if you don't join the Insta. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.